Hello and thank you for stopping by. In today's video, we'll be replacing the spark plugs on a Subaru Impreza with 125,000 miles and the original spark plugs. These spark plugs are located here on the side, two on the passenger side and two on the driver's side, and will require removal of the battery and the air filter box. So we'll begin here on the driver's side and we'll start by removing the battery, which will require a 10mm socket. When disconnecting the battery, you always want to start with the negative. It is the safest way in case when loosening the bolt you hit something metal and it won't spark. And now we can safely disconnect the positive cable. Now we can use the same 10mm socket to loosen and remove the battery hold down bracket. These rods slide into holes, and once you get them loose enough you can slide them out and pull the rod away. And now we can completely remove the bracket. And now the battery, which now gives us access to these spark plugs and the wires. When removing the spark plug wire, you want to pull on the boot itself and rotate it slightly as you pull. Once you got the wire out, for this spark plug we will be using a spark plug socket and a 6-inch extension. Once we get it installed, we want to loosen it with the 3/8 ratchet. And these are the new spark plugs I'll be using. They say they're pre-gapped, but you always want to check the gap before installing them. And we can now reinstall the new spark plug. You want to install it as much as you can by hand before using the ratchet to avoid damaging the threads. When reinstalling the spark plug boot, you want to make sure that you hear a click. And now we can continue on to removing the next spark plug wire. To get to the rear spark plugs, we will need a 3-inch extension and a universal joint. And they will need to be set up as they are here. And once you got it into place, we can loosen it with the ratchet. Now this spark plug is really worn out, and this is probably why it delayed in starting and why it had performance problems. And now to install a new spark plug. And we can now go ahead and reinstall the battery and the bracket. You want to make sure that the rods hook into the holes, and then you can begin tightening the bracket. I connect the positive terminal and leave the negative off until I'm done with the remaining spark plugs. Now to get to the passenger side spark plugs, you want to remove the air filter box and intake tube. And you will need a flathead screwdriver to loosen these clamps. And once we got both clamps loose, we could remove the tube. Next, we want to disconnect the MIS sensor connector. And to do this, you want to push down on this tab as you pull back. Next, we want to unhook these clips and remove the airbox lid. But before we can do that, we got to unhook this MAF wiring clip. And to do that, you want to press it on the two tabs using either a hook or a pick of some sort. And these are the two tabs that you got to push in to get the clip out. And now we can remove the air lid and the air filter. And now to remove this airbox, we got to remove one nut and one bolt that are holding it in place, using a 10mm socket. I pop out these two clips to make the whole assembly easier to remove. To remove these clips, all you gotta do is pop out the centerpiece using a screwdriver or your fingernails. And we can now remove the airbox completely. And we now have access to the two remaining spark plugs. This hose could just be moved around if it's in the way. To remove this spark plug, we want to use a spark plug socket with a 6-inch extension. Here you can see that we got another really worn spark plug. And now to remove the last spark plug, we gotta use a smaller extension and the universal joint. And we can now reinstall the airbox, the intake tube, and the lid. And we gotta make sure to reinstall the bolt and the nut. And that should just about do it. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful and informative, please hit that like button and consider subscribing.